Thank you for those lovely words and thank you for wishing me for the Teachers' Day. Although I feel that most of you who are entangled in my life have actually played a major role in teaching me so many things that I did not know in life. So I would also say Happy Teachers' Day to all of you who are participating in this session as well. Thank you very much. Now, I would like to begin. I'm Dr. Basili, all of you know. I'm orthopedics faculty with Marrow. And welcome all Marrow students, non-Marrow students, anyone who has joined us on this session, I welcome you. The aim of this session was to basically brainstorm the previously asked questions, thereby understanding the concepts and the topics that they have been testing in the previous years. And I have taken the questions that were very important and students were making mistakes in, and have presented to you in a simple fashion and then in the complex fashion so that you can understand. So first of all, I'm getting a lot of messages here in the chat box wishing me Happy Teachers' Day. I'm so thankful that you are wishing it to me, and I wish Happy Teachers' Day to you as well, because all my students, whether you like it or not, are my teachers. Because when you ask me these questions in terms of ye subject mein ye kya hai, what is that, how to do that, and what not to do and what to do, it makes me go back to my basics, learn, and come back and tell you the answer. So I'm also learning because of your questions. Yesterday was my birthday, and we had an osteo blast. We had so much fun, and I thought I would get up late, lazy Sunday morning, but I realized that this session is extremely important for all my turtles out there. So I need to give you something that is meaningful and important for your exam. So I've been preparing this session since many days, but today was the day when I had to finalize the slideshow. So I've been working on it since morning, and so here it begins. Let me start by sharing the screen with you. Right. So let's look at the screen here. You can find me on Instagram if you need me for anything else apart from this. So I'll start with the questions. I'll show you the first question, and I want you to type in the answer in the comment box. I will look at the amount of answers that I'm getting, and based on that, I will decide whether we need to invest time on that topic or proceed forward. So please, everyone, each one of you, please participate and let me know what you guys are doing. Okay. So first question is this: what is the likely diagnosis of the condition in the image below? Come on, start. Fire. I want more answers faster than the speed of light. Yes. We need to quickly finish and revise orthopedics. Right. So this image shows you posterior dislocation of hip. Right. This image shows you posterior dislocation of hip. How could you say that, everyone? How could you say that? Simple. I told you, whenever you get an X-ray of pelvis with both the hips, the first line that you should see is Shenton's line. Here the Shenton's line is intact. Here the Shenton's line is broken. Shenton line. Remember? Yes, Shenton's line. Shenton's line is broken. First thing. Second thing, the head is outside the acetabulum, means dislocation. Next, third thing, the lesser trochanter is not visible, is hidden, means it's internally rotated. And the last thing, yes, the tip of the greater trochanter is proximally migrated compared to the tip of the greater trochanter of the opposite side, meaning limb is shortening. There is shortening, there is internal rotation, and there is thigh in adduction. So what is it? Adduction, internal rotation, and shortening. What is it? It is FADE, that is posterior dislocation of hip. Excellent. Quickly, next question. What is this? Central dislocation. Yes, this is central dislocation. Everybody got it right. Excellent, Apurva. Excellent, Gauri. Right. How could you say it is central dislocation, friends? How could you say this central dislocation? Clearly, the Shenton's line is obviously broken, and the head has popped inside the pelvis. Right? It has fractured the acetabular wall, and that's why it is inside. Central dislocation is an old term. The correct term is central fracture dislocation. Okay, everybody got this? No doubts here? Right. Next. What is this? Quickly. Come on. These are basic questions. You should answer this. Arpita, Chandana, Khushbu, Ifra, come on. Right. It is anterior dislocation of hip. How can you say this? Again, Shenton's line is intact here. Shenton's line is broken here, and the limb is abducted, abducted. Lesser trochanter is fully visible, matlab external rotation hai, and then limb is lengthened, right? Limb is lengthened. So flexion, abduction, external rotation with limb lengthening. This is anterior dislocation. Just hold on. I'll look at the. Got it? Now, once you've understood the basic fundamentals, ये वाला question देखो, ये recent INI set का question है. Come on, go. Nilofer, Akash, Manisha, Kavisha, Kiru, come on. Yes, a 15-year-old boy brought to emergency department, motor vehicle collision, complaining pain over the hip. X-ray is given below. Next step in management. What is the diagnosis on the X-ray first? So listen to me, all of you. We've talked about clinical case-based scenario questions. Na? This is it. They will ask you the management, but you will have to come to the diagnosis yourself. How will you achieve the diagnosis? Either with the radiology, either with the lab finding, either with the clinical history. Those three things will make you come to a diagnosis. And once you reach the diagnosis, you will have to talk about either the management in terms of investigations further or treatment. Okay? So यहाँ पे क्या है? This is Shenton's line is broken again, right? And lesser trochanter is not visible, matlab internal rotation. Thigh is adducted and greater trochanter is proximally migrated. So adduction, internal rotation, shortening. What is it? This is a posterior dislocation of hip. And any dislocation I told you in my class is an emergency. You have to reduce it as soon as possible. First, attempt close reduction under anesthesia. If it doesn't work, then go for open reduction. So attempt close reduction and assess the hip stability. Why do you need CT and 3D reconstruction? You don't. X-ray makes clearly evident. CT and 3D reconstruction is for when X-rays are not definitive. Then X-rays are not giving you the clear diagnosis. High weight skeletal traction. Yes, skeletal traction needs to be applied, but after reducing. Open reduction and posterior pillar of the acetabulum reconstruction, not necessary. Acetabulum is absolutely fine. Okay, everybody got this? Right. So now please remember the attitudes of posterior dislocation were flexion, adduction, internal rotation with limb shortening, and anterior dislocation was flexion, abduction, external rotation with limb lengthening, right? With limb lengthening. Why are you guys raising your hands? Why are you raising your hands? Don't raise your hands. If you have a question, type it in the chat box. Answer, type it in the chat box. Don't raise your hands. Don't do that. Okay, so anterior dislocation Faber with limb lengthening, posterior dislocation Fadir with limb shortening. So this is what the hip is abducted and externally rotated. What is this? This is anterior dislocation, right? And Yamini Kapoor, please write clearly if possible. Yamini, if I write clearly, we will not have time. I'm hoping you understand these things already. We are quickly reviewing, but I'll try my best. All right. What about this? What is happening to the hip here? It is flexed and the thigh is adducted. Thigh is adducted, right? And limb is internally rotated. So this is posterior dislocation. Shagufta, am I audible now? Right, Shruti? Okay. All right. Did you get this concept? Is this concept of hip dislocation clear, friends? Very, very important. It will show up on your exam. Okay, Rutu, Bhaskar. Now, again, quick recap. Ye X-ray dekh lo. Take a screenshot, take a photograph, whatever. This is your anterior dislocation. This is your central dislocation. And this is your posterior dislocation. Now, if I ask you, Dr. Fraser, clinically, how will you differentiate between anterior, posterior, and central dislocation? If the attitude is not very clear, first of all, attitude se karenge. We will try to do it with attitude. But if attitude is not clear, you will palpate for the head of the femur. Vascular sign of Narath. Yes, vascular sign of Narath. What is vascular sign of Narath, Akash? Vascular sign of Narath is the inability to feel the pulsations. Which pulsations? Femoral pulsations. And when will it be there? When there is no bony prominence behind the vessel. Any kind of condition where the head of the femur is not in its place. Example, one is dislocation, other is resorption or surgical resection. Head of the femur is not in its place, you will be unable to feel the pulsation. That is vascular sign of Narath. Okay, so I'm asking you this question. On palpation, where will you find the head of the femur in terms of location in various dislocations? The head of the femur will be palpable in the femoral triangle, Scarpa's triangle in anterior dislocation, in the gluteal region in posterior dislocation, and on rectal examination on central dislocation. Shagufta, everybody is able to hear me clearly, Shagufta. I think there is something wrong with your headphones or something. Just sort it out, right? Okay. Right, now look at this question. Look at this question. Tell me the answer. Quickly, quickly. Fastest finger first. The correct answer is B, abducted and externally rotated and shortened. How many of you got confused? What is the fracture here? Look at this again. This is a fracture here. Now, where is the fracture located? In the intertrochanteric region or the neck of the femur? See, what is the neck? This is the neck. Only this part is the neck. So this part is the neck here. But where is the fracture? It's in the intertrochanteric region. Please, friends, do not get confused on the exam. Do not get confused. Look at this. This is the head of the femur, neck of the femur, greater trochanter, lesser trochanter, right? So if the fracture is here, we call it neck fracture, neck of femur. If the fracture is here, we call it intertrochanteric fracture, right? Intertrochanteric fracture. Shivangini, we will do it in the end. If you've missed something, we'll do it then. Don't worry. You can ask me then. Okay, समझ आ गया neck of femur fracture or intertrochanteric fracture. Is that clear in your minds? So here there is an intertrochanteric fracture. But if you recall, in both the fractures, the limb is shortened and externally rotated. There is shortening in both the fractures and external rotation in both the fractures. How do you clinically differentiate less shortening, less external rotation, intracapsular or neck of femur fracture? More shortening and more external rotation, extracapsular or intertrochanteric fracture. Many of you get confused here. When I say extracapsular, you think extracapsular is intertrochanteric. Intercapsular is neck of femur. Okay? Yes. Okay, समझ नहीं आ गया? Did you get it? Right. Extra has everything extra, Harshvardhan. Yes, you're right. Extracapsular has all signs more than internal. Yes, Vishwasha. Excellent, excellent. Right. How to differentiate an X-ray? I just told you, in neck of femur fracture, the fracture will be at the neck of the femur. And in intertrochanteric fracture, the fracture line will pass through the greater and the lesser trochanter here. That's how the fracture will be. On X-ray, the fracture on the neck is the neck of femur fracture, and the fracture between the greater and the lesser trochanter is the intertrochanteric fracture. That's how you differentiate, Sadhya. Okay? Everybody got this? Everybody got this? So here, the limb is abducted and externally rotated and shortened, but more shortening in extra capsular, right? Okay. Next. Which fracture among the options the highest risk of non-union? Waist of a scaphoid, intertrochanteric fracture, distal radius fracture, first metatarsal. Excellent. Yes, waist of scaphoid. Scaphoid has the among the options, the highest chances of non-union will be in the waist of the scaphoid. Okay, so among the options it has, but overall in the whole body, which fracture has the most risk of non-union in the whole body? In the whole body, tell me which fracture has the highest chance of non-union? Yes, tibia fracture, particularly distal tibia fracture. Okay. Excellent. If I may ask you, which fracture in the body has the highest chances of malunion? Harish, yes, you're right. Highest chances of malunion. Clavicle, excellent. Yes, clavicle fracture has the highest chances of malunion, and distal tibia has the highest chances of non-union. Excellent. All right, okay. Next question. Now, among the options, which fracture has the highest risk of non-union? Quickly, Kapil, come on. You guys are on fire, man. You guys are on fire. Yes. The answer is proximal scaphoid. Now the answer changed. That is why you do not mug up. You understand. If you recall, suppose this is the distal end of your radius. This is the scaphoid. This is the distal pole. This is the proximal pole. And this is the waist of the scaphoid, right? The more proximal you go, the higher chances of non-union and avian. Why? Because if you remember from the class, the vascularity is distal to proximal. Yes. So this versus this fracture will have higher chances of non-union and higher chances of avian. Okay? Yes. Excellent, Kunal. Excellent. Next, look at this. Which fracture among the options has the highest risk of avian? Harish, come on. Yes, yes, yes. Option dekho, option. Look at the options and answer. Don't write the option there. Just see among the options. Yes, waist of scaphoid. Because again, I told you, the more the proximal, the higher the chances of non-union and avian. Excellent, excellent. Did you get this, Ranjit? Did you get it? Did you get, all of you got this? Excellent, excellent. Now let's look at this. This last question from scaphoid. Come on. Yes, Ravi. Yes, yes, Muhammad. Excellent, excellent. The answer here is proximal scaphoid. Are you noticing just how by changing one option here and there, the answer is changing? Okay, so concepts are important, not the facts that you have mugged up. Don't mug up, understand, because we know the blood supply. Blood supply is retrograde from distal to proximal. Okay, everybody got this? Everybody got this. Now, my question to you. Waist scaphoid fracture, undisplaced, you want to conservatively manage it. Which cast will we use for scaphoid fracture? Dr. Fraser, excellent. Before even I finished reading out the question, glass holding cast, glass holding cast, glass holding cast. Okay, okay, listen, listen. What about hand shaking cast? Hand shaking cast, where will you use hand shaking cast? Colles fracture is hand shaking cast. In which position will we apply the cast? Pronation and ulnar deviation. Yes, pronation, ulnar deviation, and flexion like this. So remember the mnemonic puff. But please do not get confused with the recent question that was asked in INI. We'll talk about that in a bit. Just remember palmar flexion, ulnar deviation, pronation, ulnar deviation, and flexion. Ye position mein, this is the position of applying the Colles cast or the hand shaking cast. Okay? Right. I'll talk about that more. I'll talk about it more. Okay. Now look at this. Answer this. Come on, quickly. Don't raise your hands. Use the chat box. All of you are saying A. Awesome. The correct answer here is A. Why? Now let's explore the options. Which of the following is true about open fractures? Tibia and phalanges are most commonly involved. Yes. In my every duty, on my every duty, when I get many polytrauma patients, majority of them will have open fractures of the lower limb, particularly of the leg and the foot. Ye bahut correct hai. This is correct. Usually no coexisting injuries. How is that possible? Patient with a polytrauma has multiple injuries definitely all over the body. So this is not a right statement. Compartment syndrome does not occur in open fractures. Now, some of you have messaged me and said, sir, if there is an open fracture, the fracture hematoma will escape out now. So what is the chance of increasing pressure inside the compartment? That is rubbish. That is rubbish, because you see, when there is a fracture, the fascia might rupture because it's an open fracture. The fascia might rupture, but it will open partially. But the remaining hematoma will be there, and that can increase the risk of compartment syndrome. So please remember, just because the patient has open fracture does not mean कि इसको भी compartment syndrome नहीं होगा, because the other compartments are closed. The other compartments are closed, and the opening is not large enough to decrease the pressure. So again, this is also wrong. So please keep in mind, many postgraduates also make this mistake. Open fracture, they think compartment syndrome nahi hoga, compartment syndrome hoga, and that is the reason you should be careful. Last statement, early debridement should be done. Yes, true. That is the right side. You should do early debridement. Is this clear, Sohail? Is this clear, everybody? Did you get this? Did you understand that open fractures does not mean कि compartment syndrome नहीं होगा, हो सकता है. Please keep that in mind. All right, listen to me. Another important thing. What is the diagnostic criteria for compartment syndrome? Diagnostic criteria, clinical criteria नहीं पूछा मैंने, diagnostic criteria पूछा. Clinical criteria is pain. Clinical criteria is pain. Yes. Pain, yes. But diagnostic criteria is measure the intracompartmental pressure. If the compartmental pressure is more than 30 millimeters of mercury, what does it mean? Ki pressure bahut high hai. It is high compartment pressure impending. So that is the time you have to go for fasciotomy. Okay. Now another criteria is the difference between intracompartmental pressure with the diastolic. That is known as a differential pressure. That is known as a differential pressure. So if the differential is less than 30, Please remember carefully, the differential pressure less than 30 and absolute pressure of more than 30. ये clear होना चाहिए आपके दिमाग में. This one you should know. अरे Darshan, all the questions I have, don't worry about it. Listen to me. Just listen to me. Pay attention. Just listen to me. Just listen. Okay. So differential pressure less than 30, absolute pressure more than 30 means compartment syndrome. Okay. Right? Is that clear? Differential pressure means the difference between the diastolic blood pressure of the patient with the compartment pressure. The difference between these two values, if it is less than 30, matlab compartment syndrome. Absolute pressure more than 30, compartment syndrome. Is this clear, Darshan? Is this clear? Everybody got this? Come on, tell me. I want to know, yaar. Yes, yes, excellent, Marwa, excellent. So you got this, no? You got this. So clinical criteria is pain. Clinical criteria is pain. Everybody got it. Let's look at this next question. Which of the following findings appear late in the compartment syndrome? Okay. First of all, tell me which is the most important criteria to diagnose, clinical criteria to diagnose compartment syndrome, friends? Pain, right? So pain on passive is the most important clinical criteria. So obviously this is not the answer. Which is the least important parameter that I taught you in class, which is the least important parameter, not important to make the diagnosis? Pulse. Pulse, don't worry about pulse. Pallor may or may not be there. It may or may not be there, can be there, cannot be there. So not very consistent. Okay, so ye bhi gaya. Bacha kya? Paralysis. What do you mean paralysis? Paralysis means the muscle is not moving. Why is the muscle not moving? Because the muscle is dead. Muscle is fibrosed. When will that happen? Very late into the compartment syndrome. So the last finding of compartment syndrome is paralysis. And when that happens, when the muscle is dead, atrophied, fibrosed, that's it. There's nothing you can do now. You have to go for tendon transfer or various other surgeries. ठीक है ना, समझ आ गया? So the last is paralysis. Last is paralysis. The most important is pain. The most important is pain. Next. Most common bone to fracture in the body. Yes, clavicle, clavicle, clavicle. Next. Most common bone to fracture in children, Are, don't make this mistake, buggers. Don't make this mistake. It's distal forearm. It's green stick fracture. Friends, it's green stick fracture. In children, it is green stick fracture. Now, very carefully, I want to ask you this question. What is the most common fracture at the time of birth? At the time of birth, what is the most common fracture? Yes, clavicle. So tell me, repeat after me. The most common fracture overall is clavicle. In birth is clavicle. In birth is clavicle. But in children, think green stick fracture of the forearm, particularly radius more than ulna. Okay? Did you get it right? Did you get it right? All of you understood now? Yes, yes. Following the clavicle fracture, the baby may also have Erb's palsy or Klumpke's palsy, whatever. Those are all birth trauma-related injuries. So when you have difficult labors, shoulder dystocia during difficult delivery, all of you will get clavicle fracture. Yes, Parth. Yes, Parth Monga. During difficult delivery also. During difficult delivery also, you will get clavicle fracture. Why? Because clavicle fracture is not a standard finding in all deliveries. Na? When I say what is the most common fracture at the time of birth, it's clavicle because it was a difficult delivery. In normal delivery, mein clavicle fracture hota hai kya? No, na. Right? So difficult delivery, easy delivery, whatever. At the time of birth, if there is a trauma to the child that can cause a fracture, it is usually clavicle fracture. Got it, Parth? Right. Okay. I know somewhere you have found some other answer. That is incorrect. That is incorrect. Thank you, Sumit. Thank you, Sumit. Next question. Answer this. Aha, this is a classical question. Almost every exam has this question. Come on, answer. I'm not seeing enthusiasm from your side. I want the comment section to burn. Right. Answer is open reduction internal fixation with tension band wiring. Now listen. Shilpa, Neeraj, can someone tell me what are the other fractures where we can use tension band wiring principle? Yes, one is patella, obviously. What else? Olecranon, very good, very good. Yes, what else? This is for extra marks. Yes, medial malleolus, yes, medial malleolus, lateral malleolus, yes, yes, medial malleolus and lateral malleolus. Excellent, excellent. So mostly patella, then olecranon. You can think of medial and lateral malleolus as well. Greater trochanter, oh, yes, yes. Head of fibula also, yes. There are many, many more. There are many, many more. But at your level, if you can remember this, that is more than enough. Okay. Now, extra question. What is the unique X-ray view that you can take for patella apart from the standard EP and lateral view? Yes, skyline view, sunset view, sunrise view. Yes, skyline, sunset, and sunrise. Excellent, 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 excellent. Okay, listen. Patella tendon bearing cast is used for which fracture? Patella tendon bearing cast is used for tibia fracture. Right, excellent. Don't fall for that trap. Okay, don't fall into the trap. Ki patella patella tendon bearing should be used for patella. No. Okay. Patella tendon bearing is for tibia. Now, which cast is for patella? What is the name of the cast for patella? Cylinder cast or tube cast? Leg cylinder or tube cast? Excellent, excellent, Mohit. Excellent, Gayatri. Great job, great job. So happy, so happy. You guys are ready. You guys are ready. Next question. Which fracture most common occurs following a fall on an outstretched hand? Answer is Colles fracture. Excellent. Fall on an outstretched hand, if they are not mentioning the age, think Colles. Now listen, if I ask you age, if I say in adolescents, in adults or adults, what will you say now? If I just give you the demography of adolescents and adults, the answer will change to scaphoid. The answer will change to scaphoid. Elderly, obviously, Colles. Adolescents and adults, you should say scaphoid. You should say scaphoid. Next. So what is Colles fracture? Can you see? All of you are able to read the x-rays now, because that is very important now. They will show you the x-ray and ask you the diagnosis. So are you able to see? Are you able to see? This is the radius. This is the hand. Now listen, some of you sometimes get confused. The distal fragment is going dorsally or ventrally. How to find out? Look at this. How is your hand positioned? Your hand is positioned in such a way that the thumb is on this. Thumb is like this, right? So whenever you want to look at the ventral or the dorsal side of the wrist, look for the thumb. Look for the thumb. Thumb is on which side? The volar side. So where is the thumb here? Thumb is on the volar side. So where is the thumb here? Thumb is on the volar side. Okay? You got the thumb is on the volar side. So look at the displacement here. It is dorsal. Look at the displacement here. It is dorsal. So first thing to do is look at where the fracture is. Intra-articular fracture or extra-articular fracture, first step. Second step, look at the distal fragment. Is it going dorsally or ventrally? If it's extra-articular and going dorsally, it is Colles. If it's extra-articular and going ventrally, it is Smith's. If it's intra-articular fracture, what is it, friends? Intra-articular, what is it? It is Barton's fracture. Right. Someone asked me, what is the most common fracture following a fall on an outstretched hand in a child? Okay, supracondylar humerus fracture. Excellent. Yes. Supracondylar humerus fracture. Okay, na? All of you know this stuff. All of you know this. Okay, look at this question. Yes, the answer here is, come on. The answer here is Smith's. Can you tell me why it is Smith's? Because the patient is falling on an outstretched hand with the wrist in flexion. When the wrist is in flexion, the distal fragment will go ventrally. Now, somebody asked me in the comment section here, in the chat box, sir, Madelung deformity will also give you dinner fork deformity? Yes. Madelung deformity, which is a congenital anomaly, will also give you dinner fork deformity, but in young people. There is no history of trauma. If there is a history of trauma, elderly patient, dinner fork deformity, what should you think? Colles. Young patient, no history of trauma, congenital deformity, bilateral dinner fork deformity, then you can say Madelung deformity. But there is volar displacement in Madelung. There is no displacement. There is a tilt. Okay, there is a tilt. You understand that? Because why do you get Madelung deformity, dinner fork deformity in Madelung, friends, Padma, is because the ulna is growing taller. And that ulna is giving the false appearance of a dinner fork deformity. It has nothing to do with the distance of the radius giving you the deformity. The distal radius is not growing, the ulna is growing. Go and watch it once again, and I think you will have clarity. But not very important for the exam right now. Right now, we are focusing on extremely high important topic. High important topic. ठीक है ना? Yes, Sunkar. Excellent. ठीक है? Next question. So ये देखो, what is this? Are you able to read this? Are you able to see and understand what is this? Fracture is extra-articular. Thumb is on this side and it is displaced volarly. Can you tell me the deformity? What is the name for this deformity? Garden spade deformity. Excellent. This is intra-articular fracture. Intra-articular fracture. Distal end of the radius, Barton's fracture with a carpal subluxation. What is the treatment? Can you tell me the treatment of Barton's fracture? Chiranjeev, come on. Yes, open reduction, internal. Mansi, I'll tell you. So open reduction, internal fixation, because it's an intra-articular fracture. Now listen to me very carefully. Mansi just told me that she's unable to differentiate between Schoffer's and Barton's fracture. And it's a crime if you can't do that. How should you do that? First of all, look at both AP and lateral views. Okay, look at AP and lateral views. What do you notice in AP view? That there is a fracture here. Now in AP view, it is a fracture that is going through the whole of radius. And in lateral view, what do you notice? That the fracture is intra-articular. This is Barton's. Now look at Schoffer. What is the fracture? Just involves the radial styloid. That's it. It is not involving the whole of radius. It is just involving the radial styloid. So look at the AP view and the lateral view. In the lateral view, if it's intra-articular, it is mostly Barton only. And if it's involving the full length of the radius or full thickness of the radius, it's Barton only. But here, if only involves the radial styloid, then it is Schoffer. Because what is the story behind Schoffer's? What is the story behind Schoffer's, Yamini? Story: Schoffer is a driver. He used to start the engines of the car, and that handle would come back and kick back and hit which part? This part. What is this part? This is your radial styloid. So isolated radial styloid fracture is your Schoffer's fracture. Okay? You got it, Abul Asad? You got it? Old age driver starting engines. No, not necessarily old age. Young people can also get that kind of injury if they start those kind of cars. But nowadays we have smart cars, keyless cars, all those things. Yes. All right. Yes, old car, olden, matlab purane, prehistoric cars. Those olden days cars. Yes. Not Teslas and electric cars. Yes. Thank you, Krupa. All right. Okay. Now look at this question. Chalo, answer this. Come on. What should be the answer? An old lady sleep well at home. She was diagnosed with Colles fracture. Managed with what is the correct sequence of reduction? Friends, this is interesting. Please pay attention. The question here is asking sequence of reduction. The question is not asking the position of applying the cast. यहाँ पे mistake करोगे तुम लोग. You will make a mistake here. The sequence of reduction is different from position of the cast. Is that clear? I'll tell you now. That's why I'm here. The application of the cast will be in this position. That is pronation, that is palmar flexion, ulnar deviation, right? Pronation, ulnar deviation, flexion. In this position, the hand shaking position, you will apply the cast. The question is asking the sequence of reduction. Reduce kaise karoge? How will you reduce? Is everybody able to see the screen? Karan is saying there is some freezing going on. Yes, na? Arey Karan, please sort out your internet, man. Right? The reason I'm telling you is I have 2 internet connections here backup so that it should not fail. Right? So we have planned so well for you guys. And this is all high definition content here. Okay? So listen. So the question is asking about the sequence of reduction. And please remember, the sequence of reduction and the positioning of the cast are different. They are 2 different things. The sequence of reduction, remember, is this. The first thing you should do is disimpact the fracture. In Colles fracture, what happens is the fracture fragment is impacted into the metaphysis. Okay? So look at this. Suppose this is your distal end of the radius. When there is a fracture here, it gets impacted. The displacements of supracondylar humerus fracture, mnemonic leads or dills, right? Yes, dorsal, impaction, lateral, and supination, all of those are there. So there is impaction. So what you need to do is first disimpact. So I'm talking about the steps of reduction. I'm not talking about the position of the cast. So what are the steps of reduction? The steps of reduction is to disimpact, that is apply traction. Now, when you're applying traction, you do dorsiflexion. The fracture fragment is already in dorsiflexion. Why do you want to do more dorsiflexion? Because the fracture fragments are supposed to be entangled with each other. If you just do dorsiflexion, it will not come. No? So you have to first give traction to disimpact it and then do dorsiflexion to remove it. So you're exaggerating the deformity. Matlab Colles fracture ki deformity ko you're exaggerating. So traction with dorsiflexion. The fragment was already dorsiflexed. You're giving traction and dorsiflexing. You're exaggerating the deformity, thereby disimpacting the fracture. Then what do? Then you go for flexion. So traction and dorsiflexion kiya na, you have exaggerated deformity, and then with that traction you go into palmar flexion. After you've gone into palmar flexion, then you go for pronation and ulnar deviation. The principle of pronation is to lock the fragments in the reduced position. All right. Once you've locked it in reduced position, go for ulnar deviation. The hand will already be in the handshaking position. The hand will already be in the handshaking position. So you have given traction and exaggerated the deformity by dorsiflexion. And while maintaining the traction, you did palmar flexion and you did pronation and ulnar deviation. So the hand is already in handshaking position. And then you apply the cast. So the end point is the position, that is handshaking, but the steps of reduction are these. Is this clear? Is this clear, Shruti? Anshul, is this clear? So please remember, questions do hain different hai. One is talking about the position of the cast. That is puff, pronation, ulnar deviation, flexion bolo, handshaking position bolo, kuch bhi bolo. But the steps of reduction that was asked in the recent exam, these are the steps. First step is to disimpact. And how will you disimpact? Give traction and exaggerate the deformity dorsiflexion. And then with traction, do palmar flexion, and then pronation to lock the reduction, ulnar deviation. In that position, the assistant will apply the POP cast. Got it? Got it, Gautami? Got it? Everybody, Harish, right? Okay. So if you get this exam, you should be able to answer. Dono separate hai. Dono separate. Okay, okay. Next. Answer this. Can you tell me, ladies and gentlemen, what is your diagnosis here? Yes, pulled elbow. Now, can you tell me how you said it was pulled elbow? Very simple, very simple. Pulled elbow or nursemaid's elbow. Yes, yes. Why? No. Here is the hint. Father playing with the child. Father playing with the child on an Indian exam. That is the only thing. Okay, on Indian exam, when the examiner is setting the paper, the examiner thinks the only way a father knows how to play with his own child is by doing this. Exactly. So father playing with the child complains of pain at the elbow, does not allow to touch. Don't read anything, go for pulled elbow, mark it, move on. Okay, that is how confident I am. In the last 20 years of paper that I have seen, every time the culprit is the father. But in real world, when I practice, most of the patients that come to me with pulled elbow are brought by the mother. And these kind of injuries happen when the child is with the mother in the shopping mall. But then reality alag hai. Okay? No, I don't. Aditya, no, I'm very careful with my child because my children, both of them are younger than 5 years. After 5 to 6 years, what happens? The radial head gets ossified. And once the radial head gets ossified, it will not subluxate out of the annular ligament. So once my children cross 5 to 6 years, then I will do that with them. Okay, tab helicopter banao. Okay, everybody got this? Everybody got this child. So what will you do? You will flex the elbow and supinate. You will flex the elbow and supinate. It's mostly a clinical diagnosis. It's mostly a clinical diagnosis. Maybe Azharuddin. I don't know. Okay. Listen. Pooja, listen. We have forget Priyanka. How many questions we have crossed? We have crossed whatever. Just listen to me now. What do you want to do? Listen to me. Listen. A question. What will happen to the 3-point bony relationship in pulled elbow? Excellent. It is maintained because the 3-point bony relationship does not involve the radial head. Yes. The 3-point bony relationship medial epicondyle, lateral epicondyle, and the tip of the olecranon. Right. It has nothing to do with radial head. So it will be maintained. And in which other fracture the 3-point bony relationship is maintained, friends? Supracondylar humerus fracture is also maintained. Supracondylar humerus fracture is also maintained. So यहाँ पे ना थोड़ा सा carefully आप लोग आंसर करना. Supracondylar humerus fracture, usually there is a history of trauma. There is a history of trauma. Okay, not father playing with the child, not mother playing with the child. Yes. Where is it reversed? Mohit Kadu is asking, where is it reversed? You should tell me, Mohit. You're asking, you're taking my viva, or is this your session? It is reversed in, yes, elbow dislocation. Now, please remember, elbow dislocation is different from pulled elbow. Elbow dislocation is a ulnohumeral dislocation. It's an, yes, it is ulnohumeral dislocation. ये pulled elbow is a radial head is subluxating out of the annular ligament. ठीक है पूजा, everybody got this? श्रुति, देविका, श्रुति, रिया, चारू, right? ठीक है ना? एक और question. What is the most commonly injured nerve in elbow dislocation? Yes, ulnar nerve. Ulnar nerve. Excellent. What is the most commonly injured nerve in supracondylar humerus fracture? Yes, anterior introitious nerve, which is a branch of which nerve? Median nerve. So anterior introitious nerve followed by median nerve, you can say. If both of them are not in the options, then you can mark radial nerve. Okay. Are you guys still with me? You tired, bored? Naina? Right. Let's proceed forward. Next. So next question. Ye image kya? What is this image? This image number 1. Oh my God. You guys are awesome. All of you are answering very well. This is Galeazzi fracture. People who do not know this is radius getting fractured and DRUJ getting disrupted. Radius getting fractured and DRUJ getting disrupted. Also called as reverse Monteggi accident, no problem. But what about this one? What is this? This is Monteggia. Ulna is getting fractured. Ulna is fractured and the radial head is dislocated. Now, can you tell me what is the name of the classification for Monteggia fracture? Bado, oh, you guys are so good. You guys are on fire. Okay. One more question. Which is the most commonly injured nerve in Monteggia fracture? Yes, posterior introitious nerve. Why? Because it wraps around the radial head. Right? And can someone tell me what is the clinical finding for patient with pin palsy? Chilo-Nevin sign or weak okay sign where there is finger drop and thumb drop but no sensory loss. Excellent. And please remember, posterior introitious nerve is a branch of which nerve? Radial nerve. Yes, someone was saying ulnar nerve. क्या कर रहे हो? ठीक है? Right? ठीक है? Now, eponymous fractures, you should all of them know. You should know all of those fractures, right? Remember, I've taught you so well. I've talked to you about, yes, watchman stick. Sir, what is watchman stick fracture? Then night stick fracture बोलते हैं सौरभ. वो डंडा पड़ेगा ना जब, yes, when I hit you with a danda, I hit you with a stick, how will you defend yourself? You will do like this, no? You will do like this, sir, mat marna. And this danda will come and hit here. Which bone will fracture? Ulnar fracture. Yes, night stick fracture is ulnar fracture. So every eponymous fracture you should know, friends. No escape. So starting from Jefferson's fracture, Hangman's fracture, or Jumper's fracture, Bumper's fracture, Lover's fracture, Toddler's fracture, Aviator's fracture, Barton's fracture, Schoffer's fracture, everything you should know. But एक question करते हैं अभी, ये देखो. Match the name of the following fracture with the site. चलो बताओ quickly. I'm sorry, all of the options are correct. I know, Shruti. So ये होता है, बड़े शहरों में छोटी बातें होती है. Okay, now let's say A लेके चलते हैं, Jones. ये Jones लेके जाते हैं. Where will it go? I know, Snehita, it's my mistake. I apologize. So ये Jones will go to, Jones fracture is a fracture of the metacarpal or metatarsal base of the 5th metatarsal. तो ये जाएगा यहाँ पे, right? ठीक है? A will go to, sorry yaar, maafi, it goes to this metatarsal fracture. Bennett, Bennett and Rolando, all of you know Bennett and Rolando. Bennett and Rolando, both of them are the fractures of the base of the first metacarpal. So it goes to the first metacarpal. March fracture, stress fracture of the second metatarsal. Neck more than shaft. Yes, yes, yes. Boxer's fracture, fifth metacarpal fracture. Intraarticular, extraarticular, extra-articular. Yes, yes, yes. Okay, all of you are still with me. Are you finding this important? Are you finding this valuable? Revision हो रहा है ना? Time पे हो रहा है, जल्दी हो रहा है ना? We are doing all previous year questions only. No new question here. Previous year questions so that you don't have to do it yourself now. ठीक है? साथ बैठ के हमने कर लिया. Right. Now listen. Next. तो ये होगा. We have covered most of the important topics of trauma. Let's touch on the next topic. ये देखो. चलो आंसर करो. Oh my God, you guys are so good, man. I don't even know why I'm here. You guys are answering so well. So tutorial by process, gradually progressive swelling. 6 months over the upper tibia. What should be the answer? The answer is Brody's abscess, subacute osteomyelitis, slow growing, immunocompetent individual, weak organism entering the body, strong host, weak organism. Right? Yes, Charu, excellent. You remember my words, immunocompetent, excellent. The answer is Brody's abscess. Now let's look at this. Let's change a few things. ये देखो. I'm not seeing fire from your side. I'm not seeing the comment section burning. Come on, I want all of you to type. This is for you. I would do something else on a Sunday. I'm here with you guys so that I can help you finish this off quickly. Chalo. Everybody should answer. Everybody should participate here. Okay. The answer here is osteosarcoma. Did you understand how they are different? Dr. Zain, yes. A 12% rapidly progressive swelling and pain of 3 weeks in the upper tibia. Okay. And mother has noticed loss of weight also. This is an extra point. So extra point. Kabhi na, when they make bigger questions, they will give you extra points that will give you the answer. Okay. Yes, Saurav. Yes, I've see. Last session was for last time students. This session is for this time students. So concepts of the session, the concepts are the same, but I have to keep on teaching you guys. This is osteosarcoma. Okay. No. Ye wala. Here the answer changes to Ewing sarcoma. And can you tell me why? Why did it change to Ewing sarcoma? Middle of the tibia. ठीक है ना? It said middle of the tibia. So please remember. So suppose this is the upper end and this is the lower end of the bone. So if I divide the bone into epiphysis, metaphysis, and diaphysis, epi, meta, and dia. Tell me the 2 tumors you have to remember for epiphysis. 2 tumors that you have to remember for epiphysis. Just the 2 tumors. One is giant cell tumor. Other is chondroblastoma, friends. That's it. So GCT will occur after growth plate fusion. Chondroblastoma will occur before growth plate fusion. Lesion in the epiphysis, look at the growth plate. It is there, chondroblastoma. It is not there, giant cell tumor. Okay. Now, what about diaphysis? What are the tumors you have to remember in diaphysis? There are many, but at least two you should remember now. What are those? Ewing sarcoma and osteoid osteoma. Ewing sarcoma and osteoid osteoma. Everything else will go to metaphysis. Here the clincher is middle of the tibia. That is why we are going for Ewing sarcoma. Okay? Right? Everybody got this? It's a simple hack. Abhi time aa gaya simple चीजों का. Complex तो आपने बना लिया. Now is the time for simple things. Okay. Got it, everybody? Can we move forward? Are you participating? See, if you stop giving the answers, I will not proceed. I want all of you to be awake and participate because I'm putting effort here. I have a wedding to go tonight. I have to attend to my kids. Sunday bhi papa nahi hai ghar mein. Right? Chalo, next. Osteosarcoma, you know everything about this, but I'll ask you 3 MCQs here. 3 MCQs. First, what is the most common bone tumor in children? Answer in the comments. What is the most common bone tumor in children? Yes, osteosarcoma. Excellent. The most common bone tumor in children is osteosarcoma. Next question. Osteosarcoma most commonly occurs in which decade of life? First, second, or third? Aha, answer is second decade of life. Right. Very good, very good. All of you are excellent. Listen, what is the most common bone tumor that occurs in the first decade of life? Yes, in the first decade of life, it is Ewing sarcoma more than osteosarcoma. Yes. But if I ask you this last question, what will your answer be? Ewing sarcoma occurs most commonly in which decade of life? It is second decade. So Ewing sarcoma most commonly occurs in second decade. ये याद रहना चाहिए आपको, right? So ये 4 MCQs you should know, right? ठीक है, moving on. Sun ray appearance, sunburst appearance, Codman's triangle. I'm sure all of you know that. Sun ray, sunburst appearance, and Codman's triangle. ठीक है ना? All of these are features of osteosarcoma. What is Codman's tumor, friends? मुझे याद नहीं आ रहा, बताओ. What is Codman's tumor? Chondroblastoma. Yes, Codman's tumor is chondroblastoma. Right. So Brody's abscess and Gary's sclerosing osteomyelitis. I'm sure you know the differences. They occur in immunocompetent individuals with weak, less virulent organisms. In the Brody's abscess, there is a small central abscess where there's a pus and the dense sclerotic rim all around it. Okay. So Saswata is asking, sir, can you please repeat the 4 above statements? Yes. First statement is, what is the most common bone tumor in children? Osteosarcoma. Second statement is, osteosarcoma most commonly occurs in which decade? Second decade. Third statement is, what is the most common bone tumor that occurs in the first decade? The answer is Ewing sarcoma. And the fourth statement is, what is the most Ewing sarcoma most commonly occurs in which decade? The answer is second decade. ठीक है ना? Ewing sarcoma most commonly occurs in second decade. The most common bone tumor in the first decade is Ewing sarcoma. Got it? Okay. Oof, Ranaz Mullah is asking how to differentiate between the simple bone cyst and Brody's abscess. I will show you. आएगा अभी आएगा. वो तो करना है, आएगा. टेंशन मत लो. Answer this now. Yes, excellent. Okay, listen. Tell me, what is the diagnosis first? Tell me, what is the diagnosis? What is the diagnosis? Diagnosis is, yes, the diagnosis is giant cell tumor. Excellent. So giant cell tumor diagnosis. How do you know lesion is in the lesion is in the epiphysis moving into the metaphysis. Growth plate is closed. It has to be GCT. What is the treatment? Extended curettage, not chemotherapy. Although you can start denosumab in the beginning, but the best treatment is extended curettage. Okay? Everybody got this? Is this clear? Yes, extended curettage. Which other bone tumor or lesion that you have to do extended curettage for? There are many, but for your exam, ABC. Yes. Okay. Okay. Next question. ये आंसर करो. Answer here is, yes, it does not arise in the metaphysis, arises in the epiphysis and then moves into the metaphysis. Okay. One more question. A giant cell tumor most common in male or females? Yes, females. Yes, more common in females. Is it benign or malignant? It is benign but aggressive. Can it metastasize? Can it metastasize? Yes. In less than 5% of the people, it can metastasize. So these are the unique characteristics of giant cell tumor. Yes. It can. Less than 5% of the people, it will metastasize. Okay. What about this one? Muhammad Azharuddin, I'll answer that. So extended curettage with bone graft. That is the answer. Yes. What about this one? Extended curettage with autograft. Autograft means patient's own bone. And what is the most common source of harvesting bone graft, friends? Where do you harvest the bone graft from? Iliac crest. crest. ठीक है, iliac crest. ठीक है, all right, got it. Iliac crest से निकालते हो. Sometimes it is not enough, then you can take it from other sources, from other patients, that is allograft. Okay, that is that you get the bone graft from the bone bank. Just like blood bank, there is a bone bank also where you can get those bones and then you put it in the patient. But most common source of harvesting bone graft is iliac crest, and you use it from the patient's own iliac crest. So autograft ho gaya, autograft. ठीक है, next. Now this slide, this is a very, very important slide. Take a screenshot, photo, whatever, memorize this. Understand what is happening here. Look at it step by step. I'll show you. Distal radius hai, growth plate is closed, and the lesion is starting into the epiphysis, moving into the metaphysis. This has to be GCT. Again, look at this. Distal femur, this is distal femur. Growth plate is closed. Lesion from epiphysis moving into the metaphysis. Okay, got it. Again, look at this. Distal radius, growth plate closed, epiphysis to metaphysis. This is GCT. Again, distal radius, growth plate closed, lesion moving from epiphysis into metaphysis, GCT. All of them are GCT, friends. I don't have to write the names above it. All of them are GCT. The reason I have kept 4 separate images of GCT so that you should understand कि कहां पे भी हो, जहां पर भी हो, these are the steps you should follow. Look at where the lesion is, epi, meta, dia. Look at the growth plate. Growth plate is closed, lesion is epiphyseal, mark GCT, move on, finish हो गया left. ठीक है? How to tell growth plate is closed, sir? Shagun, the growth plate is like a black line on the X-ray, na? Between the epiphysis and metaphysis, because it's cartilaginous. So suppose I want to draw the growth plate, it will be somewhere over here like this. ऐसे रहेगी growth plate. Okay, the growth plate would be somewhere over here like this. It will be a radiolucent part of the bone. Did you understand? Did you understand, Shagun? That is how we look at the growth plate. That suggests the skeletal, the skeleton that we are seeing on X-ray is immature. Okay, ठीक है, Shagun, got it? Okay, now let's look at this slide. Again, look at this slide now. Follow the steps. Here the epiphysis. Look at, this is the growth plate, Shagun. This arrow is the growth plate. This arrow is the growth plate, Shagun. In this arrow is the growth plate. This is the growth plate, Shagun. This is the growth plate. It's immature skeleton. Now where is the lesion? Is in the epiphysis or metaphysis? 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 The lesion is in the metaphysis. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 images showing, all of them are showing you what? They're showing you aneurysmal bone cyst. ठीक है friends, ठीक है, right? It is ABC, aneurysmal bone cyst. Simple bone cyst will be very simple here. Simple bone cyst will be very simple. Usually it occurs in the proximal humors. It will be one large single cystic cavity, and the cortex of the bone may break and fall down at the base. That has been described as fallen leaf or fallen fragment sign. Yes, fallen leaf or fallen fragment sign. Sometimes it doesn't fall, it just may be hanging around. It just may be hanging around like that. That has been described as trapdoor sign. ठीक है, उतना ही. Simple bone cyst will be a single solitary centric cyst. Okay, ABC slide again. This is ABC slide, Srija. Okay, we have almost finished. Don't worry, just we'll finish it off. Naveen, it's going to take a little more. I'll finish it off. All right, Naveen?
Yes, sir. Yes.
Okay, now listen. Rapid fire questions. Fastest finger first. Get your fingers ready to type in the answer. First question. What is the most common benign bone tumor? Naju, instruments will come. You just pay attention. What is the most common benign bone tumor? You're making mistake. I said benign bone tumor. I did not say true benign bone tumor. Most common benign bone tumor is osteochondroma. I told you this, osteochondroma. Right? But if I ask you what is the most common true benign bone tumor, your answer will change to osteoid osteoma. True benign, the answer will change. Okay? Now listen. Third question. What is the most common malignant bone tumor? What is the most common malignant bone tumor? Yes, metastasis or secondaries. Now, if I ask you, where do these metastases occur most commonly in the body, in skeletal system? Where do they occur most commonly? In the skeletal system, I'm asking. Yes, it's lumbar vertebra. In the spine, lumbar vertebra more than thoracic. Lumbar vertebrae more than thoracic. Next question. Where do these metastases come from? What is the most common site of the origin? They come from breast. Yes, they come from breast. In males, where do they come from? In males, where do they come from? They come from prostate. They come from prostate. So overall, most common, breast. In males, prostate. Third is lungs. Third is lungs. So if I ask you what is the most common source of metastasis, you should say breast. If I say males, you should say prostate. If I don't mention the gender, what will you answer? Don't say lungs. If I don't mention the gender, you will still say breast. Okay, everybody? Right, excellent, excellent. Right. Now listen. So this was about secondary, but what is the most common primary malignant bone tumor here? I want to know the primary malignant bone tumor. Yes, it is multiple myeloma, but multiple myeloma to orthopedics में हमने पढ़ा ही नहीं है. It is usually a hematogenous tumor. It's taken care of by the pathologist and the medicine fellow. So what is the most common primary malignant bone tumor that is not hematogenous? Osteosarcoma more than chondrosarcoma. All right, Anuj. All right, everybody got this? Osteosarcoma more than chondrosarcoma. Okay. So that is about bone tumors. Moving on to a few other things. Look at this. How can you say osteoporosis? How can you say osteoporosis? How can you say osteoporosis? Because of the codfish vertebrae, huh? Fish mouth vertebrae. Okay. Okay. Look at this question now. Look at this question now. The answer is changing now. This has osteomalacia. That was osteoporosis. Why is that? Because age, number one, younger patient, older patient. Second, calcium is low here and ALP is high here. Whereas in osteoporosis, everything is normal. In osteoporosis, everything is normal, right? Yes. Excellent, Azharuddin. Everybody got this? Everybody got this? Also remember the tumors that induce osteomalacia. This was asked. Hemangiopericytoma, non-ossifying fibroma, osteosarcoma, osteoblastoma, and fibrosarcoma. Okay, ये question आया था. You should know the list. Okay, now answer this. The answer is all of the above. Yes, the National Osteoporosis Screening Foundation has said that if you're a woman 65 or older, you should get screened for osteoporosis. Can you tell me what is the investigation of choice? What is the investigation of choice? Yes, DEXA scan. And how many scores do you get in DEXA scan? How many scores? 2 scores, T score and Z score. Which one will you use? T score. Yes, which compares the bone density with the younger population, a 30-year-old young man. And what is the diagnosis? Yes, 0 to -1 is normal. -1 to -2.5 is osteopenia. And less than -2.5 is osteoporosis. And if you have a fracture associated with it, you call it a severe osteoporosis. Look at this question. Which of the following is seen in osteoporosis? What should be the answer? The answer should be calcium normal, alkaline phosphatase normal. Excellent. The treatment of osteoporosis, the drug of choice, bisphosphonates. Bisphosphonate, the drug of choice. Bisphosphonates, selective estrogen receptor modulators, denosumab, and hormone replacement therapy like estrogen. All of them decrease bone resorption. Please remember, they decrease bone resorption. How? By inhibiting osteoclastic function. By inhibiting osteoclastic function. And which drugs increase bone formation? By stimulating osteoblastic activity. These are teriparatide, abaloparatide, and romosozumab. Right? Teriparatide is a synthetic parathormone. Low doses increases osteoblastic activity. Whereas romosozumab, if you remember from your pharmacology, is a sclerostin inhibitor. Sclerostin inhibitor. What is an sclerostin? Sclerostin inhibits osteoblastic osteoblast. So you inhibit the inhibitor of osteoblast, thereby increasing the activity of osteoblast. Excellent, excellent, Zen. Excellent. Everybody got it, right? This is the codfish vertebrae. This is the term that has come. Some of you have been asking me, sir, this part, what is this? This part is the disc, friends. This is the intervertebral disc. And what is this part? The biconcave part. The biconcave part is the vertebra. The biconcave part is the vertebra. Okay? Okay? All right, Sneha. All right, Alfia. Everybody got this? Everybody got this? Which is the disc? Which is the vertebra? Next. Answer this quickly. Come on. We are almost finishing. Come on. Don't let your energy die. Come on. Faster. This is the new bone formation. So A is the involucrum. The opening here is the cloaca in the involucrum. And this dead, white, dense bone inside, hidden sequestrum is the sequestrum. So A is involucrum, hidden, dense bone is a sequestrum. This is chronic osteomyelitis. Please remember this list. The various sequestrums and the various conditions. The ring sequestrum has been asked recently, seen on the pin tract sites of external fixator. Okay. Shagun Gupta asking me Stoss regimen. Stoss regimen is the regimen used for the treatment of, come on, tell me, Stoss regimen, Shagun, is used in the treatment of rickets and osteomalacia. Yes, rickets and osteomalacia. You can use it in rickets and osteomalacia. It's nothing special. It's nothing special, Shagun. So this is the ring sequestrum that I wanted to show you. Patient ko external fixator lagaya tha. At the site of the pin, the bone around the pin got infected, and this is the dense sclerotic rim of bone that got infected. You give it a pin tract site that gets infected. You call it a ring sequestrum, right? You call it a ring sequestrum. Okay. Sanjana, oral vitamin D you can give deep intramuscular also. All right. Okay. Now, what is this? This is a spotter. What is this? Quickly. Excellent. Wrist drop. Yes, wrist drop. Okay. Listen. Which nerve is affected? Who is telling median nerve? I'll come through the camera and I'll try to, I don't know, what can I do? I'll hug you only. What will I do? Radial nerve. Yaar, median nerve kyun bol rahe ho? Radial nerve. It's radial nerve only, right? It's radial nerve. Wrist drop, radial nerve. What splint will you use? Cock-up splint. So these are two types of cock-up splints. Okay, these are your dynamic cock-up splints. Yes. What is this deformity? No, this is not benediction or Pope sign. This is partial clawing of hand. You can clearly see hyperextension at the MCP. Yes, which nerve? Ulnar nerve. Complete claw you will get in ulnar plus median nerve. Complete claw, ulnar plus median nerve. What is the splint that you will use in claw hand? Name of the splint that you will use in claw hand? Yes, knuckles are extended. You want to bend the knuckle. Knuckles means MCP. Knuckle is extended, bend the knuckle. Knuckle is extended, bend the knuckle. Okay? Knuckle bender splint. Okay. What is the deformity that you will get in median nerve palsy? Naam batao. Ape thumb deformity or ape hand deformity. Can someone tell me what is the splint that you will use in ape hand deformity or ape thumb deformity? मैंने ये तो नहीं पढ़ाया था, इसीलिए पूछ रहा हूं. पढ़ाया था, वीडियोस में है. Okay, this. So ape hand deformity or ape thumb deformity, use opponent's splint. It's known as opponent's splint. Oh yeah, Shruti. Yes. Right? याद आ गया? सबको याद आ गया ना? Yes. Okay. Opponent's splint. Right. Now, can you tell me pen test is done for which nerve? पेन टेस्ट यार, पेन टेस्ट मीडियन. अल्लर क्यों बोल रहे हो यार? मीडियन नर्व है. कार्ड टेस्ट इज फॉर अल्नर नर्व, राइट? कार्ड टेस्ट इज फॉर बुक टेस्ट अल्नर नर्व. बुक टेस्ट इज अल्नर नर्व. ऑलराइट, नाउ लुक एट दिस क्वेश्चन. What is the answer? Yes, the answer here is D, clearly, because see, this is the medial side, this is the lateral side. Which nerve will get injured here at A? Axillary nerve, right? B, at B, which nerve? Radial nerve. Yes, yes. At C? At C, again, you will get injury to radial nerve. At D, you will get injury to ulnar nerve. The question is telling you, unable to move his fourth and fifth digit. These two digits, fourth and fifth digit, cannot hold pen and cannot hold paper between the fingers, means card test. So he's talking about ulnar nerve. Ulnar nerve gets injured here. Okay. Similar question asked in the recent INI-SET exam also. So just a surface anatomy of where the nerves are located and where they get injured. Based on that, you can make the diagnosis. Okay. Right? Everybody got this? Right. What is this sign? Yes, OK sign or weak OK sign or Kilo Nevin sign. Which nerve? Which nerve? Anterior interosseous nerve, not median nerve. Say anterior interosseous nerve, which is a branch of median nerve. Okay. Which is the pathological side? Left wala hand ki right wala hand? Which is the pathological side? This is the pathological side. Okay. So normally you make OK like this. Here there is a weak OK. Normal OK, weak OK. Normal OK, weak OK. So IP flexion is gone in the thumb and DIP flexion is gone at the finger. Okay. Everybody got this? Everybody got this? We are running. Come on. Fast. Ye wala batao. Which is the most specific test for carpal tunnel syndrome? Answer is Durkan's test. How do you do Durkan's test? That is direct compression over the median nerve. Direct compression of the median nerve. Okay, directly you compress, symptoms will be reproduced. The lady will come and tell you, sir, when I sleep in the night, I sometimes get up in the middle of the night with pain in my hand. Where is the pain located? In this area, the median nerve distribution area. But I have to shake my hand like this and the pain goes away. But now I'm fine. What do you think I have? What is my problem, sir? Can you please help me? So at that time, you should make her sit down and you press on her median nerve. Symptoms will reproduce and she'll say, sir, exactly like this, I'm getting this pain only. Then your diagnosis is confirmed. Okay, na? Yes. All right. So Durkan test. Any right? So Durkan's test is the best clinical test. But overall, if I ask you what is the investigation of choice for any entrapment in neuropathy? Nerve conduction studies. Yes, nerve conduction studies. All of you know Fallon's test and reverse Fallon's test, no? Yes, Fallon's test, please remember it's like this. This is reverse Fallon's. Most of you think this is Fallon's. No. Fallon is fallen. This is reverse Fallon. All right. Both for carpal tunnel syndrome, median nerve entrapment neuropathy. What about this? Which of the following braces is shown in the image below? We are almost there. We are almost finishing. Just hold on, right? Just hold on. We are done. We are almost done. This is Milwaukee brace. There are two rods posteriorly, one anteriorly, and a pelvic mold. This is Milwaukee brace used in scoliosis. Can you tell me, scoliosis is more common in males or females? Females. Okay, it's more common in females. And what is the most common type of scoliosis? Congenital or idiopathic? Idiopathic. And most commonly occurs in which age group? Infants, juvenile or adolescents? Adolescents. So idiopathic adolescent scoliosis in the females is the most common type of scoliosis. Right? Okay. So this is your Milwaukee brace. Can you clearly see the various types of Milwaukee's brace that I'm showing you? Two rods in the back, one in the front, and a pelvic mold. And this is your Boston brace. This is your Boston brace, and this is your Charleston brace. Okay, Charleston brace. What is this test? Adams forward bending test. It is a screening test for school-going children to rule out what? Scoliosis. Because scoliosis, remember, has a rotational component because of which there is an angular hump on the back. If you bend forward, it will become visible in patients who have scoliosis, and people who do not have scoliosis but have heavy bags to carry in life. They have structural, they have compensatory scoliosis. That is why they look like they have scoliosis. For example, if you sit like this for a very long time in life, people will think that you have scoliosis, but you don't. You just, you sit in abnormal posture. You're just a crazy person. Okay. And people who carry those heavy bags, because of carrying those heavy bags, they bend laterally, right? So that is all compensatory, non-structural scoliosis, right? So उनको और इसमें differentiate करने के लिए we have Adams forward bending test, very simple test. We tell the teacher to do this and ask them to make the children bend forward, and once the child bends forward, look at the back. If it's straight, even if the child is straight all day long, the child is normal. But if he has a bump over here, if it has a hump over here, that child should be sent to the hospital to the specialist for further screening and preparation for the treatment. Okay, got it, Zain? Got it, Sahib Jot Kaur? Right? What about this? This is Taylor's brace. Please remember Taylor's brace. This is Taylor's brace. Taylor brace is used for dorsal spine injuries, dorsal spine, particularly your osteoporotic fractures and vertebral compression fractures. Yes, thoracic, dorsal means thoracic. Ash brace stands for anterior spine hyperextension. Anterior spine hyperextension. Okay. Again, dorsal, mostly dorsal lumbar. See, every brace can be used for dorsal lumbar, but mostly dorsal lumbar. Okay. Both of them whenever you have injuries. Painful arc syndrome. What is the angle between where there is pain in the abduction of the shoulder? 60 to 120 degrees. Please remember this. Mid abduction of the arm. Culprit muscle is supraspinatus muscle. Can you tell me the tests for painful arc syndrome? Can you tell me the tests? Yes, Neer's test and Hawkins test. Just know the names. A quick revision here. Don't feel bad if you didn't know. Now you know. Neer's test and Hawkins Kennedy test. Excellent. All of you. We're almost at the end. Popoy sign. Which tendon gets ruptured? Biceps, long head or short head? Long head. Proximally or distally? Long head of biceps at the proximal aspect. And what happens when the proximal aspect is injured? The muscle will clump at the distal aspect, giving you a bulge of the Popeye. Right. Got it. Biceps, long head, injured the proximal aspect, and it contracts at the distal aspect, giving you a bump at the distal part of the arm. Okay, everybody got it, Deep Shah? Right. Answer this quickly. We're almost at the end. You have soldiered through, you have revised so many previous year questions now. Yes, the answer is red zone. Meniscal injury in the red zone will heal because it has vascularity, whereas the meniscal injury in the white zone may not heal because it does not have vascularity. It has nutrition from the synovial fluid. Remember, the meniscus has the peripheral red zone and the central white zone, and in between you have the transition zone where the blood supply is not so clear. That is why the surgeon, whenever making an attempt to either repair the meniscus, he makes sure that the injury is in the red zone, so that if he repairs it, it should heal. Right? Is that clear? Yes. Thank you, Sasuda. I got it on Amazon. Counter force brace is used in which of the following conditions? Tennis elbow. Yes. Counter force brace is used in tennis elbow. Now, let me ask you this question. What are the tests for meniscal injuries? Name the names. Test for meniscal injuries. McMurray. Yes. Apley's grinding test. Yes. But what is the best test? Best test. Best test for meniscal injuries. I told you this in class. Joint line tenderness. Joint line tenderness is the best test. What about test for ACL? Anterior drawer test, Lachman test, and pivot shift test. Which is the best test for ACL? Lachman test. Lachman test is the most sensitive test for ACL. Most sensitive test for ACL. Okay, everybody got this? So coming back to tennis elbow. All that. I'll do that. I have the slide ready for me. Don't worry, Mayank. I have everything ready for you. Okay. Tennis elbow, counter force brace. Tennis elbow occurs. Where is the pain? Lateral or the medial of the epicondyle? Lateral epicondylitis. Which is the culprit muscle in tennis elbow? Culprit muscle extensor carpi radialis brevis. Excellent. Extensor carpi radialis brevis. Now, can you tell me the tests for tennis elbow? Cozen's test. Very good. Yes, excellent. You guys are ready. So counter force brace is used for tennis elbow. What about this one? Yes, reverse cousin is for golfers. You know that. What should you do? What will be your next step in the management of the girl in the given image presents to you in your OPD? What is the problem with the girl? She has some amount of genu varus or valgus. Genu valgus, right? So girls will have some amount of valgus, na? Some amount of valgus will be there normally. Girls will have more than males. So how can you make sure that it's a pathological valgus or physiological valgus? You need to measure. So what will you use to measure? X-ray scanogram. You use X-ray scanogram, which is nothing but a whole length view of the lower limb in standing position. That way you can draw the lines of mechanical axis and anatomical axis and measure the valgus. Based on that, you decide whether you should go for treatment or not. The answer is X-ray scanogram. X-ray scanogram. Okay, okay. ये वाला बताओ. 4-year-old OPD, painless deformity. Following is the X-ray. What is the most common cause of this deformity? Answer here is rickets. Why? Because in children after 2 years of age, if the child has genu, what is the problem here? Genu varum or valgum? Genu varum. If a child has genu varum after 2 years of age, it is a problem. Varus is never normal in children after 2 years of age. Valgus maybe because ho sakta hai na. Boys have 5 to 7 degrees, girls have 7 to 10 degrees of valgus. Ho sakta hai. But varus is never normal. Varus is never normal in children after 2 years of age. So children less than 2 years of age, some amount of varus, they will look cute, okay. But after 2 years of age, varus is not cute. It's pathological. It is pathological, and usually most common cause is rickets. ठीक है? अंदर गया? सब के? Right. Next, ये बताओ. This is mallet finger. So what will you do? Splint in hyperextension. Now, can you tell me, listen. Tell me the name of the tendon that can be ruptured when you get this kind of injury. Which tendon? Extensor, yes. Digitorum, yes. It can be anything, but mostly it is communis. Extensor, digitorum, communis. So what is the splint you will use? Mallet splint, yes. What is the other name for mallet splint? Do you know the other name for mallet splint? Okay. Any other name? Frog splint ho gaya. Ek aur splint. Oh, any other name? Stacks splint. Also called as Stacks splint. It's also called as Stacks splint. Please remember that. ठीक है ना? लिख लो. Write it down. Okay, Alfia. Got it? Ayush Agarwal, excellent. So this is your mallet splint. Now आ गए आपके instruments. Right? And धीरे धीरे हो गया. Just it. We are over. We are almost done. Instrument given below. What is its function? Nibbler. It is for the nibbling of the bone. You nibble out the bone. You nibble out the dead necrotic bone. You nibble out the callus. Right. Excellent. So cup type hota hai. At the ends, it's cup-like structure. When you nibble out the bones, it will hold and remove. Right. Excellent. Look at this. Sharp hai. Like scissors. It is for cutting the bone. You cut the bone. You cut the spinous process when you're operating on the spine. You cut it. It's a bone cutter. Okay, we are almost done. Just stay put. We are revising the last few year questions and we are done. Chalo, next day wala batao. This is your bone holder. Both ends are serrated here. This is your bone holder. And what about this one where one end is smooth, the other end is serrated? This is your bone and this is plate. Bone to plate holder. This is your holding the plate to the bone. Okay? Look at this now. Look at this question. Quickly, we are done. Last few questions. Young marathon runner participating in half marathon complains of pain over the anteromedial aspect of the leg after running for 100 meters. The mild start pain but increase on running. X-ray is normal. What is the likely diagnosis? Anteromedial pain in a marathon runner. Think of shin splint. Now listen, what is a runner's fracture? Please write runner's fracture in the comments. Runner's fracture. Yes, runner's fracture. Kya hai? What is it? It's a fracture of the fibula. Yes, it is a fracture of the fibula. Excellent. Don't confuse that. Okay. marathon runners can have runner's fracture, can also have shin splint. But if the same pain now occurs in the posterior aspect of the leg, what could it be? Popliteal entrapment syndrome. Popliteal entrapment syndrome. It's a congenital anomaly where the popliteal artery gets entrapped in the medial head of gastrocnemius muscle. And when this person becomes an athlete, the medial gastrocnemius gets hypertrophied. And whenever it gets hypertrophied, it compresses the popliteal artery, causing ischemic pain to the posterior aspect of the leg. Right? Is this clear? So the tests, please remember the test: Roos test, Adson's test, Wright's hyperabduction test. All of these three tests are for thoracic outlet syndrome. Yes, thoracic outlet syndrome. Thoracic outlet syndrome. Except Thomas test, flexion contracture of hip, flexion contracture of hip, flexion deformity or flexion contracture of hip. Allen's test, all of you know, for collateral blood flow of the hand. Ober's test is for iliotibial band contracture or abduction contracture, ITB band or abduction contracture. Yes, Thompson test. Where do you use Thompson's test? Thompson test. Thomas to ho gaya for flexion contracture of the hip. Thompson is for, Thompson, yes, for tendon rupture, gastrosoleus complex tendon rupture or tendo-Achilles rupture, for tendo-Achilles rupture. Trendelenburg test, all of you know, for abductors of the hip, and I'm sure all of you are confident when it comes to positive Trendelenburg test or negative Trendelenburg test, Trendelenburg gait, all of that you know. Cousins, Mills, Maudsley's is for tennis elbow, reverse Cousins is for golfer's elbow. Durkan's test, Fallon's test, reverse Fallon's test is for carpal tunnel syndrome. These are the frequently asked ones. Let me ask you another one. Finkelstein test. Finkelstein test. De Quervain's disease, De Quervain's disease, De Quervain's disease. I see a few sad smiley faces here in the comment section. Why feel sad, friends? Feel happy that you know them today. आपको लग रहा होगा you must be feeling you've forgotten all of this, but now I have revised it with you. Now you know. If this comes in the exam, you will know, right? So don't feel bad. You still have time. You have more than a week, and a lot can change over the week. Okay, don't worry about it. Okay. Sad because I'm leaving. I'm not going anywhere. You can find me on Instagram. You can find me on YouTube. Recently, I put up a nice Karan Arjun wala video. Go and watch it. That's your story. Watch from that video, learn from that video, and see if you are Karan or Arjun of your life. Okay, right. Anyways, okay, right. Got this? You got this? So listen, if you have any question and answers, what I have done is I have taken all the last 3-year questions from the NEET and INI set and AIMS, and I've taken the important, confusing aspects of it, and I've presented to you so simply and nicely. Okay, it took me what? 1 hour and 20 minutes to do all of that. Now imagine how much you can do in your 1 week. You can do so much more. And I am so happy that most of you have answered most of the questions correctly, which gives me the confidence and optimism that you will do the exam very well. You will rock hard on the exam. And after 11th September, you will celebrate with me. Thank you, Naveen. Thank you for having me.